Życzymy Państwu przyjemnej podróży.
Steven Spielberg once said that cinema is a powerful powerful force that can change the world. But what can we change so that in our country we have more and even better movies? Steven Spielberg returned here after his Schindler's List and to create another beautiful film. Today we are going to talk how to attract nice productions and how to make work of our Polish artists work even better. So what kind of cinema do we need today? I warmly welcome everyone present here in EC1 in Lodz. I can look into your eyes because we see each other. But I also warmly welcome those from our viewers who join us through internet. I hope you can hear us well. And first of all, you can see and hear us. It's time to introduce our guests, great specialists, professionals of their work. I'm really glad that they are with us. Agnieszka Grochowska, film, TV series, theater, actor, Gold Lions awarded, and many other awards. Ewa Puszczyńska, many times awarded co-producer of films like Zimna Wojna, Ida, and recently Strefa Interesów. Jan Holoubek, multi-dimensionally talented artist, director, scenarist. He prepared films like 25 Years of Innocence or Doppelganger. And Paweł Dutkalski, sales director and board member, Warner Bros. And Discovery Poland. He's responsible for movies like Barbie, Duna, and other productions. I think a good example will be new Listy do M production. My name is Ewelina Witenberg, and it's my pleasure to host this meeting. I want to start with a question to Miss Ewa. Using your wide knowledge about international movie market, I want to ask, what place do you feel Poland takes, Polish cinema takes in the world? It's difficult to answer this question directly. We can say what place Polish films take, films that we produce here. I think they are positioned very well, very highly. Like I say, Polish cinema is present in biggest festivals, is displayed around the world. No festival would now reject Polish movie just because it's from Poland, so it would be gray, gloomy, and so on, so it's better not to display it. But before the decision is made, it's 90% positive. As festival selectors watch very closely these movies. So from the side of what we produce, what we send to the world, I think we're doing great. And what our position is as a potential place for shooting movies, international movies. Now here, I will say it's much worse. That's because of many different reasons. I'm not sure if we are going to talk about that now or maybe later. Yes, I think for now, as for introduction, where we are, it's a good introduction. What Ms. Eva said is extremely important. We can also add that in different geographical positions, viewers are attracted by our movie. Say movie Paweł Pawlikowski was appreciated by very big names, Scorsese. Edward Norton is a fan of Kieślowski's productions, and of course films of Andrzej Wajda and Agnieszka Holland or Skolimowski are appreciated around the world. But new creators, not only those widely recognized famous names, but also new Polish artists are recognized around the world, like Janek Komasa. Here I will mention, like an example, we have a new generation that artists are also recognized. When we talk about Łódź, we also need to say about Magnus von Horn, that is teaching in Łódź Film School, and his film was displayed in Cannes Festival, got to Cannes Festival this year. Now, how right now looks work in sets, in film sets in our country, and what are the changes for last years in this area? Well, maybe I will start from changes. I think that the biggest change is unfortunately the pandemics that touched cinema. And the burden of production went to streaming sites, so TV series and films that get to streaming. And it happened that cinema films are in a big trouble. Cinema afiliados don't go so much to the cinema. Before pandemics, Polish cinematography was going up. Those were quite good results, 40 something millions of viewers on Polish movie. I think it was like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but and then at some point it all dropped. So I think it is a biggest change on the market that happened last time when it comes to work on films or TV series sets. From my perspective, it is good. I mean, with the production I was involved at, I had money and time for them, and I can't really complain. I think that cinema movies have big problems in reaching finances. Artists have problem to get finances, to get days for shooting. Then there is not so easy to distribute the film. So I think it's expanding. And from what you said, I want to ask also Paweł, how, no matter these difficulties, challenges, how to attract people to the cinema, what a challenging viewer expects in the cinema. Well, hits, just super hits films. But relating to what Jan said, it's not so bad. Just wanted to say that this high-score year, a record year, was 2019 for Polish cinemas, where more than 60 million people went to cinema. And then pandemics came. After what happened during pandemics, American movies were restored after that. When it comes to box office, American movies were only 2% lower than this high score in 2019, but Polish movies were minus 50%. So what happened to Polish cinemas, Polish films in cinemas? We analyze a lot after each result, after each Monday when we have first data, after opening weekends, and we really think what happened. Of course, streaming platforms can be a certain reason, yet I would look for the reason in that viewers started to easily recognize what is a streaming film, and it turned out that most of romantic comedies fit streaming very well, and what is specifically cinematic movie. And that's the biggest distinction, I think, for production and for a viewer, that the viewer needs to feel that certain films are worth watching in cinema. Some We do not try to compete with streaming because it's a completely different form of spending time. We compete with other forms that require going out from a house, like computer games, theater, sometimes concerts. But streaming is a completely different form of time spending. And what was the question? Well, you answered it just well, don't worry. But indeed, watching Dune at home, I mean, there is no such a big cinema to watch Dune at home. But on the other side, interest spheres watching at home will not work the same way as watching in the cinema in completely different patients. Absolutely, yes. Such an example for me from a couple years back when we were in Los Angeles with Cold War, when Roma triumphed there. I watched Roma 2 times in a cinema on a very wide screen. That I enjoyed that film. It touched me. Maybe, well, it not got through me completely, but I very positively received that movie. But all my friends that watched this movie, even in a big screen, big television, they asked me, well, what did you like so much? It's a black and white movie until it's and it's slowly rolling out. Animation, art house animation for adults watched in a cinema has completely different value, has a completely different image than if you watch it on your TV. So just like you said, there are films that absolutely have to be watched in cinema. There are films that can be watched through streaming. But now, how to distinguish? Because it's not just a way of watching, but also what's important, a content. Because more and more streamers say that we want to have a cinematic TV series. So it's not just television. So I think this notion is quite complex. Now, relating to Paweł, of course, recognizing what you as viewers decide that, okay, it has to be watched in cinema and what can be watched at home. But now, how can you know that before you watch the film? I don't want to add anything, but just I want to say that it's not a problem that films are made such or such, but the people are not so much used to going to cinema because 2 years they spend sitting at home. I think that's where the problem comes. How to drag people out to go to cinemas, to theaters. We are talking about already films, but thanks to Agnieszka's presence, we can talk about cinematic background. You worked in British, American, Norway, German productions. So from the inside, I wanted to ask what's the difference working in Polish sets or film set abroad? Maybe just the language is one only thing that changes. I think that just like in life, the biggest luxury that we have, and in cinema, is the time. Another luxury is freedom. This is a bit more difficult to obtain. And that's related to what you said before. It seems that we are not just fighting for watching movies on cinema theater. It's also a matter to be available for broadest, best Polish audience, but to have them still watched after 40, 50 years and to become a world-class classic. If I was to express my dream, ambition, that's how I want to see that. That's what we are struggling to have, at least that's what we would like to have. And when it comes to difference of working in Polish set or set abroad, well, I played in different movies, in smaller productions and bigger ones. The one that you mentioned, American one, it was probably the biggest production I worked at. 120 set days, it's just time. It's something that is generally, there is a huge difference, whether we have to produce 5 minutes of material a day, or, well, it can be different nowadays. Or is it one scene with Tom Hardy, and it would have 1 minute, 20 seconds on the screen, and it's only one scene that you make for 12 hours. And now it's not just to evaluate whether the film was great or not. It's about a possibility. We have time, and it's just not time during a set time, but attempts, documentation, preparation, and the matter of time that
We need to develop the screenplays. I don't know whether you will agree with me, but we need time for development of screenplays in order to make best possible movies. Without that, it would be very hard, in my opinion, to really begin it. Otherwise, we have no reason to be ashamed. I believe that Polish movies are noticeable around the world nowadays. In Europe, on festivals, we have wonderful creators, artists. I've been observing it for years. Maybe there are no obstacles for us to make great movies that would be classics of cinema later on. I thought of one more question. When I've looked at the list of films, I saw that previously you've had many more international projects. Lately, you've been much more present in Polish productions. Is it because of the fact that you started to obtain more interesting offers right now in here, and you don't have to look for it abroad? I think it's plenty of reasons. The pandemic stopped it somehow. We needed to stay indoors. So in the 2020, I needed to resign on certain projects because I simply didn't have a possibility of, I didn't have an idea how to take care of children and continue all of that. You understand that I simply needed to go away to make a movie for months, and I couldn't come back home. So this was my life decision not to do so. On the other hand side, I have an impression that because of the fact that there were years that I've been mainly working abroad. Whether it's that I was abroad and I've expanded my emploi, has it impacted the way I'm perceived in Poland? Whether the fact that I've managed to take a part in Norwegian comedy that got plenty of rewards, and I became an actress of the year in Norway at one point. So I was going to smaller countries in Europe to become, for example, the best Belgian actress or Norwegian actress. You know, small markets to have smaller competition. I don't know. It all makes sense, even if it directly doesn't have an impact on the way how Polish directors perceive me, or Polish casting directors perceive me, or producers. For sure, it made changes inside of me. I'm bolder, maybe. I want something else. And for sure, the proposals are much more interesting now. So the fact is that I have so much interesting work in Poland that there is no reason to go away. So now I would like to switch to the next part of our conversation. So we've already had the pilot part of our conversation, and now we are going to see the first episode. Hopefully we will not lose your attention. What about systematic solutions when it comes to producing and making Polish and foreign countries in our country? Because, of course, we may have great history that engages viewers and great scenario, but we need to transpose it to the screen. And, of course, we need money for that. In Poland, it would seem that we have a pretty good system of film financing, if we look at it at the first glance of an eye. This is money from the Polish Institute of Film Arts. There can be also money if experts and commissions decide to co-finance it, but those can be subsidies from the Polish Institute of Movie Arts. Those can be co-productions with the regional funds. Also, sometimes we can have private investors who invest in our movies if the movies have a chance of paying off. But for a couple of years, we've had a system of incentives. In the world, those usually were tax incentives. In Poland, it looks slightly differently. Those are cash incentives. So those are financial incentives either way. In many countries right now, it's easier to find the countries where it doesn't work than those where it works. For instance, the United States, every single state, many states have the regional fund of incentives. So this means that every spent Polish zlotys in Poland, if we prove and document that we have spent it in Poland, if it passes through an audit, then we will receive 30% of return of the money that we have spent in Poland. The money is going to be returned to the production account. So this means that it is 30% off. So we have 30% more money than we've budgeted or in our financing plan. Of course, in our Polish productions, very often we are co-producing. So those are co-productions with other countries, and this is more and more numerous. The geography is expanding. Those are not only European countries, but it's also the United States, South America, even Australia. So indeed, we are co-financing, so we can be the main producer producing a Polish movie, and we are seeking for adding up to our budget money abroad. It, of course, is related to certain obligations towards the country that is co-financing, but I don't want to go into detail. But we can also be a minority co-producer, which means that we can acquire money from Poland as a Polish producer to add up money to, for example, American movie. It was, for instance, a film of Jace Witenberg, Real Pain. It is going to be on screens in the Polish theaters as of 8th of November. So for them so that it will be beneficial to them to do it in Poland. But it's such a Polish movie, they wouldn't be able to do it elsewhere. But still, all the foreign producers who want to come to co-produce with us or want to simply make a movie so that we could provide a service to them, the first question is, do you have incentives? What's the percentage? And unfortunately, I'm getting to this sad point that unfortunately incentives don't work here all year long. So the money is not available all year long, but we can only apply because we have to apply. It's not by default, even though it's called like this. But it's not an. We can only apply once a year, so we can only press the button to apply at noon, at midnight on the New Year's Eve. So we are not having fun. We just have to press the button precisely at midnight on the New Year's Eve to match within 3 minutes. So you can see, and this is the biggest pain, because on my example, I can tell you that this year I lost 2 very interesting productions from the USA. Those were co-produced in Poland entirely with our teams, and now I watched Real Pain is a side note, but now I've read that all the names on the screen are Polish names. So it was a pleasure to me to watch an American movie that was entirely done by Polish citizens. So 2 movies like this, me and Poland lost this year because those have not happened with any other producer, because the first question was, do you have incentives? He says, yes, but you came up in February, and unfortunately I don't have it anymore because the time is up. So this system, and I think we'll discuss it, we really, really want to change this system. We have a complex picture of how the situation looks like in Poland, thanks to Ewa, and now I would like to root it in a broader context. Paweł, can you tell us how a system of support and incentives work in other European countries, so that we could have some comparison differently? As Ewa mentioned, first of all, those are automatic systems. So no matter which time of the year a producer approaches a country, whether it's 30% in Hungary or 34% in the United Kingdom, he is going to receive such money in the form of tax reliefs. There are tax rebates or tax incentives, so they don't have to click it at midnight on the New Year's Eve. I know people who hired several students with several computers just to make the click on time. There is one more advantage of other countries. They are by default and they are independent from different political decisions. I don't know whether you remember what was the buzz in the media in Poland when a movie obtained money when Wesele obtained money from incentives. This was a movie by Smarzewski. So how does it all work? Just imagine that the whole market is around 270 billion euro around the world, and even from this system of incentives that we have, we could have produced plenty of movies that are bringing certain benefit to the country. Every every zloty spent for film production in Poland is converted into 3 zlotys of income to the budget. First of all, because there is plenty of people who work doing movie production, so it's new jobs. Then the movies are being recorded in particular region, and it impacts the tourism of the regions and economy, catering, demand for hotels. Audiovisual branch produces jobs and generates huge income in the places where it's happening. To compare, in Poland it's 3 times, and in England it's 8. Every pound that you spend on production brings 8 pounds of income to the economy. So what we speak about, what needs we observe of the change of a system, is as quick as possible shift from cash rebate to tax rebate in Poland, so that a producer, for instance, if Tom Cruise once again decides to ruin a bridge in Poland, and he will be willing to spend 100 million Polish zlotys on it, because to Tom Cruise and his production, it's not a lot of money. The new Mission Impossible is supposed to be 300 billion zlotys. So the 100 million dollars are going to generate in Poland around 340. So what's important in those systems is that they do not put a burden on the budget of the state, because we are not expecting special program from a country that would require a special budget, because we practically obtain money like in case of offset. We get money back from what we invest. So we invest 100, and in Poland stays 100, and we get from it when the film producer are going to receive 30% as the audiovisual branch. So that's how it looks like, more or less.
But if I may, even this 30% in different forms go back to the state budget. As Paweł said, we are a film industry. So even on the example of Lodz, if I make movie in Lodz, those are hotels, this is transportation, catering. I pay to use a belt on the road, a track on the road. I lease objects from private sector, from institutions, and I pay for all that. And all that people that I work with, contractors, generating decorations, all that generates money. We pay for that. And then these people pay taxes from money they make. So even this 30% that we get, it anyway goes back to state budget. So I think that I'm really glad that there is such a big group, because we really want to make people aware that cinema is not just we do something during a couple of months, then you go and watch it, and then you will wait for the next movie. First of all, preparing the whole process of creating a film from the scenario to the moment when it gets to the cinema screen, it takes years, 3, maybe 5, depending on the project, sometimes a bit less, but not less than 2 years. So all this time we work, we generate money, and so on. And I can say about another disease that we have in Poland, and that is quite difficult to solve as well, at least in our case, mainly about money flow, cash flow. If we manage to gather a budget, if we have financing of the project on paper, all contracted, all these grants, all this money come in at different moments in rates. I can give an example. Polish Institute of Film Art gets 50% during contracting, 40% of donation. After settling these first 50%, after audits and saying that everything's okay, money was spent properly, then I get 40%, and last 10% I receive after settling all movie. It's around 1.5 years or 2 years. It takes this much time. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't stop the production, saying, well, ladies and gentlemen, now we do the break, because I need to settle first 50%. That's completely impossible. So, except for money we collect for the film budget, I need to also try how can I cash flow this movie, where I have this financial flow from the beginning to the end. That's another problem of Polish producers. We don't have tools. Banks don't want to cooperate with us, and it's very difficult. I think another very important thing, cash flow support programs that function in certain countries, that credit producer for the time of film production. In case of Polish movies, they would be very helpful. Another solution that is natural in a situation when there is a tax rebate or other sorts of support funds. I think it's another incentive for producers that we don't really have in Polish movies, because they cannot. I'm not sure if you are aware how risky business is to produce a movie and the distribution. From an example just of cinematic distribution, I might say that after each movie like that, we have only one chance. So either we promote a film and it during first 3 days makes a great opening that allows, first of all, get enough frequency in cinemas, then to keep this film broadcasted, keep it displayed in the film. In cinemas, in theaters, they count how many seats are occupied, and we don't have another shot. We can't add more money and have more audience after a week. It doesn't work like that. For film distribution sector, we only have one chance. Therefore, the risk is known to private investors, but if they are somehow incentivized, and if they also can take part in film production and have an access to different support tools, here I mean mainly tax rebate, that would definitely help. Also would help to bring Polish investors to the table, because in the situation of low loss or during the production, they can take away, reduce their taxes. So again, those are not money from budget. Those are money this money would return to budget. So the system this is a huge ecosystem, starting from scenarios, from movie teams, building up all the budget through actors and directors that work, that they need time to do all that. Then distributors, streamers, broadcasters. I mean, it's the whole system, and we need to remember that. I think that unfortunately in Poland it's not recognized as a system. I mean, each parts of these groups are treated separately and their interests are treated separately, and we need to really look at it as like on a whole system of combined vessels, a good ecosystem. Speaking about all that, setting it in specific examples, it's good to bring an example, The Last of Us TV series. In Canada, I read the estimate that said that because it was made in Albert, more than 800 workplaces were created and 1,000 local businesses received services, specific services from the team of that TV series. And we don't need to look so far. Also, TV series Ojciec Mateusz in Poland, it made the touristic movement in Sandomierz, increased it 70%. So that's are the effects. Or like Northern Ireland and Game of Thrones. Each sixth tourist that visited this region of the world uses attractions related to the set of this very popular TV series. White Lotus, Biały Lotus. On Sicily, it was also something that made many people interested in the place where this production was made. So I think that if we show these benefits, direct benefits or indirect benefits of locating given TV series or a film in a given region. Agnieszka, Janek, can you tell us how your day on a set looks like? And we will stop you and comment that due to that this and that happens. So you start in the morning, what do you do? Drink coffee. Without that you can't go far, that's obvious. I mean, we sit to the transport, so that's one service. Transport business, taxi drivers get you to the film set. There you eat breakfast together, as I understand, right? So these catering films, well, in a camp. Yeah, that's another question. So you need to somewhere deploy all the trucks, campers, but also buses that are adopted to work on a film set. So you need to rent an area where this camp is created. What happens next? Janek, what should do next? Well, then I'm still drinking coffee at this moment. No, to be honest, I wanted just to say that my recent production, Hevelius, took place in 12 cities in total. It lasted 8 months. So hotels, restaurants, because the cast, the team, after shooting goes to restaurants to eat something. Then locations, leasing or renting the locations, subcontractors, we all mentioned that, but those are tens of millions of zlotys. How big are film crews? Well, film crew of Hevelius, it was 140 people who worked there. Plus, if we count everyone, building, decoration, not counting, of course, actors and second-plan actors, but it's around 500 people involved. Then we have post-production, so it's at least 500 people. Then when we add actors, it's thousands of people. Actors and extras, thousands of people. So we leave a lot of money on these different places, and this money stays in the place where we do the sets. And questions like trivial things like cameras, lights, and that consumes electric energy. That's also a big cost generated. We don't think about it usually, but I will go back to these extras. That's another option that can allow local communities to see how a work on a film set looks like. They can come there and see from the inside, experience that on their own. But Ms. Ewa wanted to say something, I'm sorry. Just wanted to add, it's electricity, but it's also waste, it's water. So we create like a small village, moving village that uses everything and pays for everything, uses all the services that we need and we pay for everything. And what Janek said, a crew after work also has a life, so they visit restaurants, sometimes even, as a paradox, they go to the cinema to watch movies, but they also use taxis. So I use the film industry, but that's how it is. We generate incomes and we leave these incomes in different places in Poland. It all goes back to state budget. So everything that we leave on place, taxes are paid and it all returns to a state budget. So that's how we should be treated, and there should be an awareness what problems we can have an awareness that maybe at some point in time in Parliament there will be a problem discussed of how to solve problem of different incentives. You will not say, oh, again, people from the movie industry again want some money from us, because in fact we want to give you this money. Of course, someone is financing us, but this money are cycling, are turning in cycle. Everything that we receive, we give back. That's again something I wanted to ask. What is the biggest problem? That situation still looks like that, because I think it's for many years like that. And it seems that we didn't even start at the race, because after the incentives were off, Americans left. And since these incentives are present somewhere else in Prague, they work there all the time. I mean, the question is why the situation doesn't change. I can't give a proper answer. Maybe that's the lack of awareness, because right now these incentives are financed. They were, at least until now, from Ministry of Culture, but it shouldn't be like that. It should be financed from Ministry of Finances. Not even financed, but this money should be in constant turnover, as it happens in normal other countries. I think the problem is also that we are not recognized as one big industry that can generate a lot of inflows, because except for incentives that we would like to see, tax incentives, tax rebates we have now, we would like to have cash rebates. We have many arguments for changing the situation. Like Dune, it was shot in Hungary, and that's a lot of money that stayed in that studios. And we have a great industry that could consume a lot of American productions. There were exceptions like Hunger Games. Some scenes were shot near Wrocław, but that's not that big money as they can be. I think if we now say about 8 billion zlotys of the value of that industry, if Americans or other countries start to produce in Poland, this money would multiply. Looking at us as like on an industry, it's not about film production and the whole this path from scenario to development until the end. It's also about, say, cinemas. Big cinemas, these big multiplexes, they are at the time after this big inflation, after the pandemics, after the drop of audience in Polish films, after increase of costs of energy and labor costs, they are on a threshold now. If multiplexes close, where people would watch our Polish movies? Since multiplexes display like 80% of our movies, I want to tell you that cinematic industry are not accepted in money from National Recovery Rebuild Plan. It happened in Italy, in other countries. These funds, after the pandemics, to rebuild after pandemics, cinema had a chance to replace their traditional equipment in cinema from analog to digital, to reduce cost of energy like 80%. In our case, it's just they are just not listened, and that's an ecosystem. I just wanted to add another thing that you should be aware of, that this is all very complicated, and say Tom Cruise appears here, then another American production with big budget. It also has its dangerous side, and that happened in Czech Republic among others, that Czech cruise in this example The prices for everything went so much up, their service, their equipment, because Americans paid, so these prices could go up.
And it turned out that the Czech citizens couldn't afford to make Czech movies on their own market with their own crews, because those crews were simply too pricey for artists from Czech Republic. So it's not enough to bring huge money to Poland. We also need to secure Polish market, so that it wouldn't get spoiled this way. Yes, Janek, we spoke about it already, that such growth of prices on the Polish market was done by streams. I want to remind you your own movie, when we had to negotiate because you wanted to work, and I understand and respect it. I understand it all, that you wanted to work with people who you are sure that you trust, who you have previously done TV series and movies, but out of the blue, what the teams were receiving when working were absolutely not matching the possibilities of the budget of a movie. And Janek personally had to negotiate with the people who he wanted to work with, so that they would change their expectations. So I do agree with what you said. There is such a risk, but it has already happened in here. But we also have to say that we have to take very good care of what's our own, because what has happened, for instance, in Czech Republic, what also happened in Great Britain. At one point, there was not even British homemade movies, but we need to develop skills of crews and expand the job markets, because right now, should there really be big American productions arriving, we don't have yet 100% highest world's, let me call it American level crews that would be serving it. So it's a pretty complex issue. And I think that it's possible to solve it from the systematic point of view. But unless we solve it with systematic incentives, if we don't switch to tax system, if we don't, and Paweł keeps on repeating it, and he's very much right, we have to be treated like one ecosystem, one industry, then it would be very hard to straighten it all out. Because right now we are, well, I don't want to say that it's collapsed, but it's not easy. Agreed with what Janek says. I'm wondering what's the alternative, because Ewa says that she already didn't manage to organize two huge international productions. So Polish artists are realistically losing on such or not another incentive system. The fact that only several minutes after midnight they run out of the incentives, it shows how huge the demand is and how much we need reforms. We slowly have to head towards the end of our conversation, and I would really like you to answer a question as a summary. The question has been posed in the title of our panel. What cinema do we need nowadays? Agnieszka, could you begin? Good and diverse, because we are different, and it would be good to have level of freedom to make different movies in Poland. We can take it slowly. We don't have to immediately turn so super attractive to the American market so that they would flood us, but make one or two movies. You know, let's start to do it step by step, small steps even, and then it would be good. What director, a foreign director, would you like to work with? Who would you like to attract to our country? From the European ones? European, why not? 1 year, I would go for Salentino, and another, Derman Brothers. Those are my wishes. Ambitious. Sorry. My second name. Diverse cinema, I would say. Let's be aware of the fact that cinema is not when we speak of cinema and movies, we are different because we differentiate so-called high audience cinema where Polish audience would be willing to go to. So it's good entertainment, high-level entertainment. And those are thrillers or criminal movies or comedies, romantic comedies, social comedies, or very advanced and engaged socially cinema. But when it comes to plenty of audience, accessible, available, but I don't want to offend anyone, but movies where someone would like to go to and would find something interesting for themselves. What I'm attracted to is so-called or artistic cinema, which might not be for everyone. And it's okay. It's very good that we don't like the same thing, all of us. But this type of cinema is also very much needed. And from those movies, some at least are becoming classics. And some, as Agnieszka said, in 50 years are going to be discussed at the universities, and students are going to learn about them during the lectures, such as Loski or Has, speaking of Polish cinema. So I would like such cinema, and up till now I haven't managed to implement it, but I would really like to do something in this type of cinema. I would like a very good social comedy. For now I haven't found such a scenario that would move me so much, and I would say, okay, I'm going to devote 2 or 3 years and do it. But I would really like to make such a movie. So I'm happy to watch both types of movies. I can only subscribe to what the girls said because I believe that market needs diversity, so that there would be plenty new companies, because quality comes from quantity. If we have 60, 70 productions in the country, there is much bigger chance that 10 out of them would be great. If we only make 10 movies, then we have smaller chances. I wish to the filmmakers that there would be money for films and that the market would be alive, because only then interesting things would be produced. I wish you diverse cinema, both for broad audiences, so that the movies and the filmmakers who didn't have chances could make it, because art doesn't always have to be converted into money, and it should not always be converted into money. Sometimes art is just to satisfy a smaller group of people. I'm honest that I would love to see Hevelius on the big screen. I think that the key to it all is the audience at last. I would love to build bigger audience, whether those are commercial or movies or artistic movies. I want movies to be made in such a way that the audience would be very willing to watch movies in cinemas, some others on streaming platforms, because this teaches us how to perceive the movies. They are full of emotions, and I would want as many of video films as possible to bring emotions along, because if we cry during a movie, then we remember the movie for a long time, and such movies attract bigger audiences to the cinemas, those that bring emotions along. And that's something I've been missing lately in Polish cinema. When I was at the festival in Gdynia, I was finding it hard to find emotional movies. What Janek said, maybe I'm speaking too long, Janek and Ewa, we need a different approach, also of the National Institute of Film Arts, to decide on the movies that will get subsidizing. I'm not speaking even about incentives, tax rebates, etc. It is also about an approach that will be boosting the audience number, maybe groups of experts that would assess movies not only from the artistic angle, but also those that would be building the whole industry and the market. I wish you the most wonderful and miraculous movies that would resonate with you. Do we have time for one question and answer? Maybe someone in the audience would tell us what kind of cinema they would expect. I see one person willing to take the floor. Katarzyna Nowak. I dream of Polish Emily. I love French cinema. I would love us to make Polish movies à la française. I'm not sure whether it's possible, but I miss such lyric approach to movies in Poland. Very valid remark of yours. So we spoke to Paweł about French movies, and if you could just briefly speak of it. Yes, they've learned to boost the audience. French audience is watching French movies. They love directors' movies. To be honest, if Clint Eastwood movie is screened in France, then it's full. The audience is full because they respect the directors. Thank you very much for your kind attention to the audience, and thank you to the fan.
Plany biznesowe powstają z marzeń. Dlatego nie ma dwóch takich samych firm. Jedni chcą działać na całym świecie. Innym cały świat mieści się w dłoni. Sukces biznesu to nie tylko jego wielkość, ale też szczęście, jakie przynosi ludziom. PKO Bank Polski.
Uwielbiam szycie w sieci. Wczoraj podszyłem się pod wnuczka, wieczorem uszyłem intrygę na apce randkowej, a dziś planuję grubymi nićmi szyte oszustwo z promocją. Tak się szyje.
Na oszustów są sposoby. Zapoznaj się z poradami ekspertów na niedajsiepodszyć.pl.
Rodzina spółek Pelion to 12 000 osób pracujących w ponad 300 spółkach w Polsce, Szwecji, Wielkiej Brytanii i na Litwie. Jesteśmy liderem w branży ochrony zdrowia. Od 1990 roku dbamy o długość i jakość życia. Pracować z nami możesz w jednym z 7 obszarów.
Radość, nadzieja, życie, wyzwanie, pasja, pamięć, zaufanie, pokój, jedność. Słowa tworzą świat. Polskie Radio. Źródło wiarygodnych informacji.
Zapraszamy do Trójki. Od nowa.
Trójka. Program Trzeci Polskiego Radia. It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it and how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Polskie Radio.
Jedynka.
Czy wytrzymasz klockowe tortury? Ze stoickim spokojem. Czy w twardych negocjacjach zachowasz zimną krew? Czy poddasz się dobrowolnej eksmisji ze swojego łóżka? Brawo! Test na obecność serca zaliczony. To znaczy, że ty też możesz być rodzicem zastępczym. Dowiedz się jak na testserca.pl.
Jedzą kanapki z kawiorem.
Nadzwyczajna kasa.
Obrażanie dziennikarzy telewizji polskiej.
Chodzi o działania polityczne.
Przygotowanie ofiar dla pedofilów.
Für Deutschland!
TVP Info. Włącz się na nowo.